would you present yourself a little bit to people who have never heard of Sanita?
So I feel like I'm pretty established as a poet and a writer in Ottawa. If you know Ottawa as a writer, you know that Ottawa is actually a city of poets. We have a ton of poetry events, whether it's just like open mic events or competitions, or even like we host First Fest, we host the Ottawa International Writers Festival. And I went back to Carleton for a second degree in English literature with a concentration in creative writing, and that's where I met a whole bunch of poets and became editor of Inwards. I published my first book, Psychomachia, which is Latin for Battle of the Soul. Actually, strangely, today I have it in my hands. Not related to this interview. This is not a plug-in, but I'm creating my first sort of account online to sell some of the extras that I have. And anyway, I did a little tour with that, and I then proceeded to be the editor of two major for my life anyway, major anthologies. And the first one in 2006 was called Refugee, with a parenthesis on the E, so it's Refuge Refugee, primarily to respond to the crisis of Syrian refugees coming to Canada, but also because I was a refugee 5 years of my life. I'm from ex-Yugoslavia. I was born in Sarajevo. There was a siege and a genocide of my people in Bosnia and Herzegovina, so I ended up spending 5 years of my childhood as a refugee across Europe. So it was really I guess, close to home. And then in 2018, I published Dissent. This is an anthology that I co-edited about speaking truth back to power in our post-truth fake news era. Trump was coming in as a president, and in the background, I was laboring for many years on this play. I feel like I've been carrying this play in the way that you might carry the body of someone for a very long time, and you're just sort of trying to take it somewhere. And this whole adventure for me started when my son was 2 years old, and he's 9 now. So to give you a sense of how long I've been thinking about this play. And with Sarah Stanley, I had an opportunity to have it read by professional actors as part of the 2019 March Mayhem workshop series. And then from there, Sarah said, you know what, I have a feeling that you should work with Janet Irwin. She's an extraordinary local director. Give her a call. And I had no idea who Jan was at the time. So I sent an email and I said, hi, you know, I have this play, here it is. And I hear back just a one-liner being like, hi, I'd love to meet with you. Let's go out for coffee. We talked about the play. We got along really fine. And she said, you know, I'll come on and let's try and make this happen. So this was a really huge turning point for me to, you know, have sort of like a first working draft, maybe second working draft, and then finding such an established and talented director that's, you know, been in the community for so long and that everybody knows. And I didn't know anybody, so I felt just so blessed to work with her. We took the play to Tactics, and we had a first week-long workshop with 6 actors, and we were able to meet in person and all these things that, you know, now we take for granted, like coming together in a room and working on the play. And we really worked on the play for hours and hours and hours, to the point where we were still editing the last line of the play just about 2 hours before we had the public reading. It was really important for me as a playwright to be able to see the play come to life, right? Because these characters, like I told you, it's like carrying someone on your back for so many years. You're carrying this project and you're never letting it go. Even though I published a book, I published several anthologies, I'm an editor of a magazine, I'm doing all this labor, including like finishing a second bachelor, a master's degree, commencing a PhD, and you have all this, and yet you have this play with you, and this play represents so much for me. I mean, I'm bringing in everything that is fundamental to my identity. So that is being born in a country that no longer exists, having been through you know, the beginning of a siege, the longest siege in modern history, growing up with my childhood stolen by a political situation, by economic precarity, being a refugee for so long, and then coming to Canada and that extraordinary culture shock, and the culture shock just never stops because you end up having cultural differences within your own family. And so Bosnia is constantly with me, because Bosnia for me represents my family and the language that we continue to speak and the food that we continue to eat. And yet I'm also Canadian. So all of this on top of the trauma that never really fully goes away from everything you've seen, you've lost, and you've experienced. Of course, you know, we talk a lot about resilience, and I feel like this play is all about the love and resilience. It's a love letter to the Bosnian community for me. And it's also a love letter to cultural clashes. So, like, that family in the play is completely fiction. I mean, this is not my parents. That is not how my parents reacted at all. When I told my dad I was a lesbian, he was like, I love Angelina Jolie. And I was like, I don't know how that's related. What I love about the work I did at Tactics especially is the fact that with the input of the actors, every single character grew. And so, you know, when you're creating a dramatic comedy, of course, you heighten these dramatic moments and you heighten the comedy in order to express a truth that's not just specific to the Bosnian refugee experience, but that hopefully is universalizable, if that's even a word, so that you can universalize this really specific thing. And one of the privileges of working with Tactics for me as a writer, and I think for everyone in the team, is that you get an opportunity to connect with the public at the end. So in that room, there were people that I didn't honestly know. They were probably from the theater community or friends of friends. But there was also a huge Bosnian and Croatian public there. And I was really nervous. You know, how are they going to react to what I had written? I was showing, you know, when you make a comedy out of something, it's like sort of the Jewish comedy. Not necessarily everyone really enjoys seeing that kind of mirror. But I was so humbled and so touched and so motivated to keep working and to keep carrying this story, because I had sort of 6'4" grown men coming up to me, and I was like, oh my God, I wonder if they were okay with the jokes that I made. And they were like, I cried. And this is the first time in my life that a piece of theater or a movie or any kind of art made me cry. I cried and I laughed, and I want to thank you. And I was just like, wow, I wasn't expecting that at all. Every single member of the Balkan community said that. But what was more surprising about that public reading was that I had people from rural Quebec come up to me and they were like, this is my family. I swear this is my family. And I was like, really? I didn't think that was transferable. Bosnians are so unique in my eyes. Of course, I love them intensely because I am of them. But I had people from Montreal, downtown Montreal, be like, oh, that's definitely my family. And another thing that I realized was sort of what I thought was really specific to Bosnians, but ended up touching people in the audience that I wasn't expecting, was the connection to family secrets and trauma, and how that gets passed on, and how actually that impacts the mood and the tone of the whole family. So that was really extraordinary. And I just want to say that I don't think I could have gotten to where I am with the play without Tactics and with its very unique vision and the way that it's formatted, right? To allow us to bring big teams together for a play that has 6 actors, that's big.
It's a very important point at the one you touched in terms of how we've been working on Tactics to shape the workshops now to the artists, because Tactics is really interested in the relationship with the artists and asking, okay, what do you need to make your play or your project or whatever you're working on go to the next step that you need it to go. How is it to do the workshop on Zoom, and how is it to do a workshop with designers as a playwright, which apparently is not a very common thing?
Oh, it's amazing. What a fantastic opportunity I've had. It's unbelievable how many people we were able to bring together. Pull out the names of everyone that was there this year, just to give you a sense of what Tactics allowed us to do. We had me, Jan Irwin, as director. We had a stage manager, Lori Champagne, whom we absolutely needed because the team was so huge. We had Dana Ujarevich as the main actress, John Kurgzin as the father, Danielle Savoie, Kate Smith, Madeline Hall as the 3 daughters, Vishesh Abiyaradne as playing Jiddu, and then Sebastian Simpai playing the little boy. And then we had a huge creative team. We had Brian Smith as set designer, we had Seth Gary as light designer, Pixie Cram as our video projection specialist, she's also a video director, Angela Schlachhoff as the sound designer and musician, Scotty Irwin also as musician but also as soundscape artist, and Reem Al-Rawi, she was our Islamic aesthetic consultant. She's also an architect who works in Ottawa and Dubai. So it was supposed to be a technical workshop. And the whole plan for it was to meet together and have all of these creative people jamming together, coming up with ideas, whether it's lighting, working with sound in conjunction with perhaps a video projection. The vision in our head was, okay, we're going to meet in Arts Court and we're going to have all these tables and we're going to collaborate together on different days. And we're thinking through a schedule, right? So this is December, January, and we're thinking about a schedule, and it's like so much work. And then boom, the coronavirus hits. And we have this huge team. We have this extraordinary opportunity through tactics, and we're not sure what we're going to do. We get an email from Bronwyn being like, everything is okay. What are you guys going to do? And we're like, oh my God, we have no idea. Can this be done over Zoom? I mean, these are light specialists, right? How do you do that creative jamming over Zoom? Needless to say, we just thought, okay, you know what? Let's not have any expectations. So we split it up in 3 parts. The first part, we had actors doing a rehearsal and then a reading. And the actors worked really hard, including the young boy actor who was amazing. And then we had a private reading for the designers. So we worked with the actors, continued to develop the script, and presented that to the designers. And we said to the designers, we have this major question mark, we'll put it like that. With this major question mark around 4 very specific moments in the play, and those are the 4 memory moments. What we did was we decided to really trust the team. And we said, okay, take a week or 2, now you've seen the play read, here's the script, and take those 4 moments and let's have a jamming session, all of us. So they came up with ideas on their own, and then we had a jamming session over Zoom, and Brian Smith showed us an amazing stage. Pixie had wonderful ideas. The sign designers, Angela and Scotty, had wonderful ideas. They had already read the play, but that they could see it and sense through sort of some of the very specific questions we had for them. But we also really structured it with a very specific angle. We didn't say, oh, just look at the play. We did, of course, enjoy the play, get to know the stories, the main themes, etc. But we said, this is what we really need your help with are the 4 memories, because those are the questions that we couldn't answer without the help of a lighting person and etc. And it was only after having that jamming session with the whole creative team that we realized, you know what, we don't need a boy, we don't need an actual actor. It makes more sense in terms of trying to create something that's eerie, that's ghost-like, something that's more surreal. It makes more sense to use technology like lighting, set design, and projection with video. This is the part that I find most exciting and interesting, because theater is all about being spontaneous, right? It's in the moment, it's ephemeral, that's what we love about it. There's a kind of aura in it, you're in the moment. Everything that happens there ends, and even though it's the same script, the next night it's a little bit different because the actors are feeling different, the audience is giving them something else. But the video and lighting and all of that, all of those elements are kind of predetermined, and they create a kind of foundation, like pillars, you know. They keep a beat, bum 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 bum, there's 4 of them. And so that kind of work can't just be done by the playwright. That's a collaborative act. And so we called it a creative meeting and a creative team, because even though I wrote the script and everything else, and you know, the actors are adding to that through the workshop, it always is a collaborative act. These elements that are so technical heavy, because I'm not sure that's the right way of saying it, but there's so many technicians involved, so many designers, and so many creatives. That is a creative act. That's a co-creative act. Having an opportunity to do that, like you said, there's the workshop where you're really working on the script. We did that in our first workshop with tactics. And then this second one was really an opportunity to get a creative team working together for these surreal elements. Having that team is a luxury, because I don't know that a lot of playwrights ever get an opportunity to do that unless they're highly established and have a lot of financial resources, the way Robert Lepage has now, right? He has his own theater company. And we had an opportunity to do that through tactics. I mean, who gets that, right? And we're creating a model, first of all, that is so flexible enough to give me an opportunity to grow grow not only as a playwright, but to have a whole team come together and have the play grow in this way. That it's not just a script that ends up growing and dialogue that ends up being incredibly tight, but that we have an opportunity to work on technical elements that usually there's not a lot of time, right? You're in production, you have 2 weeks, you have rehearsal, you know, there's some time. But here we have the leisure of quite a bit of time. I mean, this workshop lasted from May to April. It was like 4 weeks because there was a lot of space in between where we gave creative people an opportunity to take the time to reflect. We had sketches, Brian brought sketches of an incredible set design idea. We were completely thrilled about it. And so he created a stage that shows that kind of, we'll say, imprisonment in large quotations, because obviously a snowstorm is not a real imprisonment and cannot be compared to prison, which is rather a very violent, unpleasant concept that I don't agree with. But here they're kind of stuck together. So all the worst, the good, the bad, and the ugly has to come out, right? They have nowhere to go. And so he created these set ideas, and for the memories, he drew them. Seth brought out a ton of idea on lighting, and Reem, who is an architect from Dubai and Ottawa, she had these extraordinary ideas using Islamic calligraphy in the video projections. So having the opportunity to come together over Zoom and it be so productive just makes me wonder. Imagine what we could have done if we could have met in person. So it just goes to show that having a structure like tactics, a structure that follows not just a predetermined set of what it thinks is best, right? Not just a workshop and it has to mean A and B in this very tight square, but saying, look, what is it that your play needs in order to grow? What does your team need in order to be able to bring out the best of their talents together? And giving us an opportunity to do that with so much freedom.
And it's great that you called it a creative workshop, because we've been working on Taxis, we've been looking for better ways to name it as well. And like this year we were going to have a workshop production, which is when a play, it's like almost ready to be a production, but it doesn't need a workshop anymore. So you have this like in between to go to the next stage. And it's a great name. This creative workshop is a great thing that you found. It's a process that not only grows the play that the audience gets to experience, but it grows the artist that hopefully is also going to be doing more plays. And then at each play, you know, you get a new sense of that person growing into their artistry and just mastering the craft. So it's really a win-win when you think about all of those things. And specific aspect too that you pointed out on how, you know, the playwright cannot know all of those things, because that is kind of a conversation that sometimes we have when, you know, either you demand the playwright to have all the answers, or the playwright assumes they have all the answers, and none of those are actual fruitful collaborative environments.
So say there's no craft that is isolated like that. Not even a novel, you know, it's a collaborative act, because the editor is editing you and the publisher has demands, and there's no craft where there's like this myth of the master artist. It is all a collaborative act. And actually theater is what excites me the most about the form, is that you get to meet all of these incredible people. I have to tell you, after this creative workshop, I felt rejuvenated. I felt like alive. I was electrified from crown to toe, because everyone's ideas it was just so brilliant. And the music I heard, and how much sensitivity every single person had. I mean, Angela and Scotty did their own research. They had found Bosnian traditional music online. So when they came with these stuff, they knew that the accordion and the clarinet, they knew the most important instruments of like, basically Bosnians. No one knows even where Bosnia is on the map. And yet they had all of that. It just goes to show you the level of professionalism. I wasn't, you know, I had an opportunity as an emerging playwright to work with some of Ottawa's best talent. I mean, can you ask for anything better?
I totally agree with that. I wanted to say, as a audience person in Blissful State of Surrender reading last year, that's how I felt by watching your play. Was I was like, oh yeah, that's why I like theater. Like, oh, that's why. Oh yeah, because the fact that you were given the chance that time and a bit before, and you met Jen Irwin, which is a professional director, that just gave so much to the play, plus all of your background in writing, that even that reading, I could see just how powerful it was becoming, you know, how it was, oh, this is becoming a theatrical experience of big size. And because a lot of people are not at all given any resources, or don't even know, they're not producing that kind of work. In a way, I'm really measuring my words here, but it's kind of like, it's kind of, you know, after 12, 13 plays that you see that are like, you just lose your motivation to do any of them or to go to any of them.
Yes, yes.
So,
And I've been seeing a lot of one men, two men, not to be gendered or women, but a lot of one men, two men plays that don't have the resources, or that you can tell are working around contrived resources. And so a lot of the characters end up being on the phone or like something far away, and you're like, wow, like, and then you go see a play where there are clearly a lot of resources. Like I'm thinking of like last play where I saw, where I know there are a lot of resources, Robert Lepage, just what he can do in terms of a stage design. That's another aspect of the opportunities that I've been given. First, the connection from the NAC allowing me to basically get in touch with Jan Irwin, and then Jan Irwin's entire circle, and then Bronwyn bringing in an ability to have a stage, bringing in an ability to have these people in the same room. And another person that I'd love to mention here that is actually in the background, after that first reading that we had at Tactics where you were in attendance, there was a person in the audience. Her name is Madeleine Boyos-Menso. I hope that I'm pronouncing her name right. Madeleine Boyos-Menso, and she came up to me and she said, you know what, I want to be your producer. Madeleine was in the room, and it was through her help and through all her connections and all the network that she has that we were able to bring in, Scott, that we were able to bring in Angela, and we were able to bring in all of these other people. So when you're starting out in the theater community, you don't know anyone. You're kind of like a child, right? And the maturation process takes time. But I feel like I went from childhood to adolescence to adulthood very quickly because I was surrounded by people who knew people who knew people. And so these connections is actually entering a community. It's not like entering like a professional thing and etc. Like it is absolutely professional, but it's not like a network where you're sort of taking and trying to create a business, or there's some kind of capitalist motivation going on, because a lot of the times, I worked many hours where I'm not getting paid, and so Jan worked many hours, and Mado worked many hours behind the scenes. And we all, you're part of the community, you all end up working so much, carrying this project on your backs. But now the load is so much lighter because there's so many of us carrying this project, right? Tactics is a place that's actually committed to a project, right? It's not just, hey, I'll open the door for you, and then you go out on your own and you stand on your own 2 feet, not knowing where to go. And so now this story is being carried by Tactics, it's being carried by me, it's being carried by Jan Irwin, and as it continues to grow, it'll continue to be carried by other people, the actors, some of the creatives. These people are now part of a community, and we're all carrying this story, and that's extraordinary.
That's just a good point for me to say that's also why we're trying to do this artist highlight as well, because the audience also can be part of your community as a theater maker in town, and they can follow your work as well, right? So when you get to your second play or whatever other thing that you come to do, they now know a bit more about you. They now have a face to the name and the play, and then they can be like, oh yeah, is that person, oh wait, is that person, which, because I had that before, and I know how that was important to me as well, where I directed a workshop and then they were like, wait, were you the one that directed that play like a year and a half ago? I was like, yeah. Oh, I loved it. I was like, wow, that was a year and a half ago. Like, and I was just like, as soon as they left, I was like, oh, like tears. And I was like, wow, that is so, wow. Like, there's no words for that, right? So part of this, this highlight and this kind of conversation is also to grow that relationship with those networks and just everyone that makes it happen, because like you perfectly said, you need audience, you need other creators, you need all of those people to actually make a piece of theater, right? No matter how you meet, you do need all of them. What's next?
Jan and I are working really hard to find a stage for our play. We'd love to see it produced. You know, this is a workshop. A Blissful State of Surrender has had 3 workshops, one at the NAC, 2 with Tactics. We are going to do one mini workshop at the end of the summer, really because we're perfectionists and we want to resolve a tiny issue with one element of the script. The other thing is we're looking for a stage for our play. I mean, it's in the middle of coronavirus, you know that. It's you know, we're talking. It's June 1st, 2020. So we're dreaming big in terms of looking for a place to stage it, but we're really hopeful and we're exploring different avenues. And so he's a really interesting paradoxical character that actually he's my favorite character of the play. So it's out.
Well, that's that information we're gonna give to the audience, because then they just kidding. Oh, Sanita, thank you so much. I don't even know how long that was, but doesn't matter. I had a blast.
Yeah, thank you for your generosity, for like including me and stuff, and for following up. And thank you to Bronwyn and to the whole Tactics team. Like, I really mean that. I feel a lot of gratitude.
Oh, that's very nice. That's very good. It does help us feel like we're not working in a little void for for a unseen revolution. It means a lot to see all of that, and how Tactics was really built to that relationship. So it really matters, what the artists experience a lot of times. Of course, we care about audiences because we're doing theater, we're not doing something else. So that's kind of a given. So then the fact that we insist on the relationship with the artist that's the extra step, I think.
I love that you're using the word relationship, because that's what it feels like with Tactics. It feels like an ongoing relationship because there's so much mutuality, and like you're attending to the needs of the other, and that's really being in good relation. I really appreciate that word. Quote the other day that said, something that's even more powerful than love, which can be blind, is trust. And trust is really like a key ingredient in professional relationships, because you know that person is reliable, you know that person is forthright and transparent. And trust is really like, it's not just intuitive, you know, it exists in the space between us and it develops over time. But that's one thing that I feel like Bronwyn is really good at. She is trustworthy. And I think everyone on the team knows it and senses it and wants to go towards her because of that trustworthiness.
All right. Thank you so much, Sanita. Big pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.